Newly hacked documents reveal Israel's plot to skirt the Foreign Agents Registration Act so that they can continue to influence U.S. politics and culture unnoticed. Here's the exclusive reported on by The Guardian. What this is basically a bunch of a hacktivist group basically were able to hack into Israel's, they were able to get into Israel's system, and they were able to, Israel's Ministry of Justice actually is what they were able to, and they retrieved hundreds of gigabytes of data. When they got in there, they found all of these correspondence, these emails and these documents that were dated from 2018 to 2022, showing Israel attempting to thwart the United States Foreign Agents Registration Act, also known as the FARA Act. How were they going to get around it? Now, the reason why they started having this conversation in 2018 is because people started to go after the administration, the Democrats who absolutely despised Donald Trump, if you remember, started to use their power in Congress. They had the congressional majority, and they started to wield their power to go after Trump supporters, people inside of the Trump administration. And in particular, they went after them for violations of the FARA Act. They were hunting out Russiagate. If you remember, they were looking for who was taking money and influence from these foreign countries. And it not only was it Russia, but they also were looking at Ukraine. If you remember that they got Paul Manafort on Ukraine, there were several of them that fell by taking money from Ukraine. Then there were some that took money from Turkey. I believe that was General Michael Flynn. And these are allied countries. These are ally nations. And Israel started to freak out because in their mind, they said in these documents that were leaked, they said, wait a minute, FARA has typically been used traditionally on going after people who are taking money or working on behalf of adversarial nations. But now they're going after even allied nations, people who are taking money from allied nations. And whoa, what does this mean for us? And they realize this doesn't mean anything very good for us if they decide to come after us and find us out and actually come after us for influencing American politics and American culture. We might get slapped with needing to register under the FARA Act, which is something that Israel has scrambled to ensure that they don't have to do for a very long time. So that is the basis as to why they started having these conversations. What can we do, if they come after us like they've done with Ukraine and Turkey? And even recently we saw a woman being taken down for South Korea. That's another allied nation. We have big bases in South Korea. So at this point, it doesn't matter whether it's an allied nation or an adversarial nation. If you are taking money or if you are working on behalf of a foreign nation, you need to register under the FARA Act. So they decided, what are we going to do? And according to all of these leaked memos and emails and documents, they attempted to figure out a way to skirt the FARA Act by discussing the creation of an American nonprofit that they could funnel all of their money and resources to. So what's, I think, most important to understand about this, because a lot of people say, look, AIPAC doesn't need to register under FARA because AIPAC is funded by American dollars. So these are Americans who are also loving and loyal to Israel. So they have dual loyalty. That is exactly what they have. That is why they're donating money to AIPAC, because these are Americans, but they want the United States government to be influenced to benefit Israel, a foreign country in the Middle East. So these are dual loyalty Americans, but they are Americans. And because they're Americans, and they may or may not have Israeli citizenship. A lot of Americans don't gain the Israeli citizenship because they don't need it. You don't need, if you're an American Jew, for the most part, there are some exceptions, if you're particularly outspoken, then Israel might say, never mind, we want all Jews except for you. And they have said that to quite a few outspoken Jews who are critical to Israel. But by and large, if you're an American Jew, you automatically are going to be granted citizenship in Israel just the minute you say, I want citizenship. So it is not beneficial for a lot of Americans to have Israeli citizenship. They know they can get it anytime they need, if they need. And actually having an Israeli passport can be hindering because Israeli citizens can't travel everywhere in the world. Israeli citizens have there are some restrictions on Israeli citizens, especially throughout the Middle East and Northern Africa. So it's not really beneficial. And then also you'd be accused of dual loyalty because you have dual loyalty, but that would prove it if you had an actual Israeli passport. And we want to keep it vague, right? That's a lot of Americans want to keep it vague. So the rebuttal about why AIPAC shouldn't have to be registered under the FARA Act is because Americans fund AIPAC. It's not actually funded by the government of Israel. However, what's interesting about this piece in The Guardian is that the leaked emails and documents show that even though the funding comes from Americans, the directives are coming from Israel. So the money's coming from America, but they're receiving their marching orders from the government of Israel. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds like you're working on behalf of a foreign country. I don't think the country needs to be funding anything just for you to be working for them. I mean, if you're working for them, let's say you want to be a pro bono spy. I mean, does that mean because you didn't take any money, you're not actually a spy? You're not actually working on behalf of a foreign government? I don't think anybody would say that. I think we'd all say it doesn't matter whether you were pro bono because you just love the country and you just decided you wanted to do it for free. You wanted to spy and sell American secrets for free, let's say. It doesn't matter if it was pro bono or if you took a large paycheck for millions of dollars. What you've done is treasonous and you're a traitor to the country. So I don't know if it matters whether or not AIPAC is funded by any Israelis or who are not also Americans or the Israeli government. I think what matters is where are they getting their marching orders. Now, The Guardian doesn't point out in these documents, it doesn't point out AIPAC specifically. I'm using AIPAC as the example because that's the most likely that they're referring to. There are many other organizations who are influencing American politics and American discourse. But AIPAC is a big one, and we all know it's funded by Americans, but it's taking its marching orders from Americans who are taking their marching orders from Israel, and that's highly, highly, highly problematic. So that is what is exposed in these leaked memos and documents and emails is that Israel was trying to figure out how to work around it. So they thought, okay, what if we, instead of us just giving our marching orders directly to these groups who are lobbying on our behalf and we're on the phone with them regularly, what if we create a middleman, an American nonprofit group? And then what we'll do is we'll talk to the nonprofit through grants. We'll give grants. They'll accept grants, and we'll also have meetings and phone calls, and we could work through them. And then they would give the marching orders to all of these lobbying organizations. So we'd create a nonprofit that's not a lobby, but the nonprofit just works on behalf of the Israeli government without having to actually disclose it because nonprofits don't have to. They could work under 501Cs and they could just be shielded. So they could do that. And then the lobby groups could then be getting their directives from the nonprofit, and that would then circumvent the FARA Act. They wouldn't be getting their marching orders anymore directly from Israel. Now, one thing that they mentioned in these memos that were leaked or hacked and then leaked was that they said, well, it's not exactly ideal for the Israeli government because we can't influence them directly anymore. We have to go through this kind of play this, the telephone game. And we don't really like that. But if we have to, in order to circumvent the FARA Act, in order to trick Americans into doing things for Israel on behalf of Israel, allowing our lobbying, in order to trick them, this is if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. So that was uncovered. This is so absolutely, our country has been co-opted by Israelis. I mean, we do not allow this to happen I can't think of any other government in the world that has this level of influence on American politics, on our free speech rights. We don't have laws being passed in our government that restrict our ability to criticize Great Britain, for example. We don't have laws that hinder our ability to criticize Ukraine even. We're allowed to actually still even criticize Ukraine. But there are laws where they're trying to pass them in Congress, and they've successfully passed them in Congress, that limit our ability to boycott a foreign country. I could boycott China all day. Nobody will come after me for that. But if I boycott Israel, I've got a problem, a legal problem, because Congress has passed legal laws that hinder me as an American from boycotting a foreign country. That is That's outrageous. Our country has been taken over by big influential forces who've been operating in the open, but now they're a little bit worried because Democrats wanted to go after Donald Trump, and in doing so, they started getting anybody and everybody they could for anything and everything, and for taking money from any and all governments, friend or foe. And that's made Israel squirm a bit. I want to play this clip for you. This is Donald Trump. Donald Trump really, I think, kind of explaining, he's making it sound like a bad thing. Like, oh, Israel doesn't have control over our government like they used to. Isn't that terrible? Watch this.
If you said, let's say 15 years ago, maybe not even that long, anything bad about Israel or Jewish people, you were finished as a politician, right? You were finished. You wouldn't do that, Congressman. You wouldn't do it anyway, but nobody would do it. The most powerful lobby in this country by far was Israel and Jewish people. Today, it's almost like, what happened? What happened? What happened to Schumer? What happened to all these people? Schumer's like a Palestinian, right? It's a Palestinian. You got to remember that.
Unbelievable. But there he is saying it out loud. Israel used to have so much power over, and the lobbies, they were so powerful. What happened? What happened? He's making it sound like a bad, oh my gosh, why are they no longer in charge? What's happened? This shouldn't be. They should still have, a foreign Middle Eastern country should still have control over our country, is what Donald Trump just said, saying the quiet part out loud. Not even just quiet. I mean, nothing's been quiet about it. It's been out and in our faces this whole time. We're just now starting to say something about it, saying this is wrong. We can't continue to allow this to happen. And we can't allow our sympathies for what happened during the Holocaust to cloud our better judgment and to allow our government to be completely taken over, and our discourse. One thing that was mentioned in this Guardian piece was how in the memos that were leaked, or that were hacked and then leaked, the Israeli government was talking specifically about targeting colleges, targeting the discourse at colleges. They know they're losing the youth. They know they're even losing Jewish youth, that they're no longer brainwashing to the level that they used to, where Jews that are in their 40s or 50s, or some in their 30s, grew up believing that Israel was their homeland, that Israel was integral to part of Jewish culture. Now younger Jews are not really buying it. They're kind of like, why? I live here. I'm happy here. I don't understand why. Why am I supposed to make Aliyah out of this foreign country and a place that's, by the way, under war, and you keep telling me is surrounded by hostile nations? Why in the world would I want to go there, where they're telling us that we're constantly under threat of being expelled by the Arabs? I thought I was trying to avoid getting expelled from places. Why would I go somewhere? So the young Jews aren't even buying it. So they're losing the narrative, and they know they're losing the narrative, and it's freaking them out. And so what they're trying to do is influence the universities. And we've seen that successfully happen. Recently, how many university presidents have had to step down over false claims that they were unwilling to denounce genocide of Jews? They were being very specific about free speech laws. Although I get it, they're not consistent when it comes to other free speech. That's what they should have been fired for. The fact that they weren't protecting all free speech, that they were picking and choosing which free speech they wanted to protect. But make no mistake, these presidents were in that moment protecting free speech for once, and they were fired for it. The Jewish lobby, the Israeli Jewish lobby, got together and said, you got to get out of here. We don't want you anymore. And we got to get rid of these people. And they successfully were able to. That was all unveiled in these documents. This is a foreign country influencing American institutions, influencing not only our politics, but our culture. They're influencing the news. You turn on Fox News and all you're going to hear is, rather than Palestine, Gaza protesters or genocide protesters, it's Hamas supporters, Hamas supporters. Who's giving them the marching orders to say that? Who's the one telling them to frame it in this way every single time? And so there's a big, powerful group, and they are controlling the narratives here in the United States. People are waking up to it. They're calling them out for it. The good news is that the voices that are here calling them out are too strong now. There's too many of us that they can't silence us. They can't shut us up. There's just too many of us. And so we have to keep that going, because we have to take our country back. It's fine to be allied. Let's say Israel gets their crap together and they're no longer a genocidal nation, and they want to live peacefully, and they truly are going to be a peaceful nation with their neighbors. It's fine to be allied. I have no problems with being allied with Israel or allied with any other nation around the world. But the line has got to be drawn on them influencing our politics. That is where we have to say, look, we can be friends, but you don't control my life. And we unfortunately are friends with a group that is controlling our lives, controlling our politics, controlling what's best for us as individual Americans, as a nation. And we have to call it out, and we can't tolerate it anymore. And it is really refreshing to see pieces like this in The Guardian that are calling it out and waking a lot of people up to it. It's refreshing to see people like Candace Owens on the right, who is, Guardian is more on the left. Candace Owens is on the right. She's speaking up, and really a lot of people on the right are saying, yeah, that's how I feel. You got a lot of people on the right now saying the same exact thing as all of these protesters on the left. And it's coming from both sides now. The pressure is on, and we got to keep it up. Hey guys, this was just a clip of a longer show. Catch the full show by going to KimIversonShow.com. It is free. It airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. You could go back now and watch this full interview. I highly recommend it. Again, go to KimIversonShow.com. Thank you so much for watching.